Hey guys, welcome back. We have another video for you because you know what? It's spoiler season again. Welcome back to another Pauper video and another top 5, of course. It is Dragonstorm and I believe the set is out. That is what I've been told. So here we are. I have looked through and I have got my top 5 plus 2 honourable mentions. Yeah, let's see how we get on. Without further ado, first of all, I guess I really like this set flavor-wise. I don't know if it's there power level-wise, but it has got some cool cards I will be brewing against. There's a orb that gives dragons +1/+1. I'll be trying some pile like that, of course. I'll be trying to make dragon ramp work or what have you. I just love casting big, massive dragons. There's a cool mechanic in there called Omen as well, which obviously does spin the wheel and shuffle it back into your deck. So we'll see if that sees play as well. But without further ado, here is my honourable mentions. My first honourable mention is Focus the Mind. And the only reason I've got this card in there is because, Jesus Christ, people love to talk about this card. So, this is a 5 mana, draw 3, discard 1, which we have a plethora of 5 mana draw 3s. Discard 1 is also semi-useful, but this is also instant speed. The main difference is this costs 2 less if you cast another spell this turn. So if you have cast, for example, the biggest talking point with it is Snuff Out. This becomes a 3 mana, instant speed, draw 3, discard 1. I think this card will probably not really see play. I think if any deck, this shows how deep we're going, that any deck that has ran Reign of Revelation, I think the card's called, it's a 4 mana draw spell. I think this will probably replace it because they usually have stuff to go with it. You know, you can have your, I'm talking like blue-black Teachings or some sort of Teachings, Tron, etc. That is the sort of style of deck I'm thinking. I don't think this will see playing blue-black Control. I don't think this will see playing blue-black Fate. I don't think this will see playing Familiars. You know, the whole snap, bounce, untap, all that sort of, nah. You get Familiar. You know, you can go Familiar into this costing 2, right? So it costs 2 less, so it costs 3, and then costs 1 less. So, like, that might be fine. But again, I don't think ultimately any place really wants this card. I think it's cool. But yeah, the prerequisite of needing another spell cast this turn is quite high. Especially when there's very few free or cheap spells in Pauper. Like, you've got Snap, you've got Stuff Out, etc. But that's sort of it. I think this card, if this card sees play, I'll be surprised. But I think the card is still pretty interesting and still good to obviously build around for sure. And that leads us into our next card, which is Sibsig. I'm sure I'm saying that right. Appraiser. It is interesting that this is a zombie, so it probably makes me excited to try this. But usually you want the zombies in black, maybe white for the Ketra's Approach or whatever the card's called. But basically, the more interesting thing about this is a 3 mana 2/1. When it enters, look at the top 2 cards allowed. Put one in your hand, the other in the graveyard. This is finally the closest you've got to Seagate Oracle replacement. Obviously, it's a 3 mana card. You look at top 2 and you put one in your hand, and then Seagate Oracle puts one on the bottom. If this was exactly word for word stat line, but only put it in the graveyard, this will see play over Seagate Oracle, I would imagine. You get so much value in Familiars putting it into your graveyard over putting it on the bottom of your library. However, I do think that the reason I want to mention this is there's a small chance that even the crap stat line is worth putting it into Familiars, and I feel like it's probably worth trying. I'm not sold, and I do think the 1/4 body will, over time, outwin this card, but the fact that we've actually got a better Seagate Oracle for text is probably worthwhile trying, is where I'm at. And that is obviously only in Familiars. So that is why I think this is worth testing and definitely worth an honourable mention. My next card is honestly, I swear these are all like Kali's cards, all my honourable mentions. So my last one is Seize Opportunity. This is a 2 and a red for exile, instant speed. Exile top 2 cards of your library until end of turn. Until your next turn, you may play those cards. Or the semi-irrelevant ability. Up to 2 creatures get +2/+1 until end of turn. So basically what this does is this adds another Reckless Impulse effect to Ruby Storm. Again, another Kalikai's deck. So basically just having access to more draw 2s seems like a good thing to do, I guess. Is why I think this might see play. And it'll only see play in Dragonstorm because it's literally worse than all the others. In Dragonstorm, in Ruby Storm. So yeah, that's why I thought. It is instant speed too, so there is that. But I ultimately do think this card won't see much play, apart from Kalikai's playing it in Ruby Storm. Right, that's my honorable mentions. Number 5. At number 5 is quite an interesting one. It's probably the only interesting one I've found for this sort of ability, but it is Storm Shriek Feral. Effectively, this card is a 5 mana 3/3 with Flying and Haste, and then it's got Fire Breathing for 2 mana. You can, 2 mana, pump it up, attack. But that's not the important part. Main thing is the Omen effect, or what I thought was an adventure until I seen the text. Then shuffle this card into your library. So basically what this does is 2 mana, discard a card. If you do, draw 2 cards. And then this shuffles in. So, excuse me. The interesting thing about this, and the only reason why I think it's interesting, because most of the time, the shuffle part is bad, because you like the access to the card sitting over in the ether, but in decks like Dredge or Red Dredge, you don't want that ability. Like, you either want it to go, you pay 2 mana, it goes to the graveyard, or you want it 2 mana, it goes back into your deck. And the fact that this goes back into your deck means it's not sitting in the ether. It counts towards your Dredge because it's a creature. It counts towards, like, your creature count, so it counts towards that sort of thing. And it's an enabler for, like, Scrapwork Mutt style effect for Stinkweed Imp and your other dredges you have. So that is basically the reason why I think this card is a creature card in the graveyard, but it also shuffles in to increase your creature count in the graveyard. And then also, it basically does the Scrapwork Mutt enabler. So I feel like this might see play in, like, Mono Red Dredge. They already run that. Is it Cathartic Reunion? The 2 mana, discard 2, draw 4 or whatever, draw 3 or whatever it is. I feel like this card's just better. It's a creature that's obviously in the graveyard and also does what you need it to do. So I think that's probably where this will see play. Obviously, Mono Red Dredge is not massively. I would imagine it's potentially tried in Dredge, but obviously Dredge being green-black is a bit awkward. This might enable something else, some other type of Dredge. You know, it might enable Black-Red Dredge. It might enable, something along them lines. It could enable more Mono Red Dredge. I don't know. But the fact I do think this card does that is why I think it's pretty good. And that's pretty interesting. I'm definitely interested to try this card out. I would like to see if there's one that's missed that does, like, when you shuffle it in, if there's a card that basically just goes, this is the only card I'm going to cast for the rest of the game, if you drew your deck, like, like Lember shuffles in. If there's a card like that, that sort of has that as a win con, if that makes sense. I don't know. 2 mana, deal 1, shuffle it back in or something. I don't know. But I couldn't find any that sort of did that, so that's why I didn't mention any. Moving on to number 4. Number 4 is Ringing Strike Mastery. So I think this card is fairly okay. It's very similar to Weakstone Subjugation, which is sort of seen play, but it's also like bind the monsters in an effect. But the main thing is bind. I believe, someone can correct me if I'm wrong, this is the only 1 mana 1 that taps without an additional cost. So Weakstone Subjugation makes you pay 3 to tap it. Bind the monsters, you take damage to tap it. This one just taps it doesn't untap, but they can pay 5 to untap it. So in an aggressive deck like Mono Blue Fae, you can basically play this, have it tap the guy, it doesn't untap, but if they ever pay 5, they can untap that creature. But if they untap it, then attack, they still then have to pay 5 again. So there is that. But my other thought is basically, the reason why this probably won't see play, or the reason it's not compared to Bind the Monsters, is because of Writhing Chrysalis. Writhing Chrysalis, basically, you tap it, and they basically get 2 mana back, and if they've already got it in play, they have 4 mana, so they can already untap their Writhing Chrysalis. But My thought is that I don't believe that when this video comes out, it'll probably be out before the ban announcement on Monday. I do think that I do think if Writhing Chrysalis is banned in that ban announcement, this card gets infinitely better. This card is just better than Bind the Monsters in general without Writhing Chrysalis. Because 5 mana untap the guy is a lot and a really big tempo loss, especially if you are on something like Skurra's List where you got Harrier Strix to re-tap it. I think this card gets a lot better. Not taking damage is huge. So yeah, that's why I think this card is pretty solid. Number 3 is Humbling Elder. You may think this card looks very familiar. I don't think this card is going to be absolutely insane, but it is very familiar because it is basically Brine Barrow from Mono Blue Fair. The only difference is I think it's a rogue monk instead of a rogue. Other than that, it is exactly the same. But basically, Cogwork Wrestler is a card that is played in sideboards because there's sometimes you just want 5 through 8 or 5 to 6 Brine Barrows. Now you just have a better one. Also, this card looks miles better than Brine Barrow, so play this card instead. Other than that, it is exactly a functional reprint. You basically now just get to play 12 copies of Brine Barrow if you want, because Cogwork Wrestler is also the same, but it's not an artifact, and this card is just a better Cogwork Wrestler. There's no reason to play Cogwork now other than this, because of this, because Cogwork is an artifact, so in effect is weaker, but this is also a human, so it does help your other minds and such. So this is just a better Cogwork Wrestler, and play this one instead of Brine Barrow. Put the Brine Barrows in the board because this one looks cool as anything. Yeah, and that is my number 3. Number 2 is Mardu Devotee. Only reason I put the Monk lower is because it's basically just a functional reprint and won't see play over the Mono Blue Fair. This card I'm actually quite excited for. It's a Thraben Inspector stat. 1 mana, 1/2, human. But when it enters, oh god, I got rid of it. When it enters, scry 2, so it doesn't create a clue, but it does scry, so it has value in Core Skyfish in it. But Mardu Synth or black or red-white Synth has issues with mana sometimes. So I mainly Mardu, and they've ran Navigator's Compass in the past, where the filter on this is actually relevant, and the scry 2 is also relevant. Like, it happens a lot. Like, you've played Candy Trail in the past. You've played Navigator's Compass in the past. So merge these together and get a worse of each, but better overall is my logic. And that's why I think this card will probably see play Mardu Synth. Yeah, card's pretty solid. And yeah, I'm excited to see this one and try this one for sure. And my number 1... You're thinking, oh my god, you've picked all the cards. There's no real good cards, but you've highlighted them all anyways. Well, you are wrong. Number 1 is the Beast Camel thing. Salt Road Pack Beast. This is a 5 and a white for a beast for 4/3. This costs 1 less for each creature you control. When this enters, draw a card. So, we've never had anything. We've had cards like this. We've had like Phalanx, which is a 4/4. It just has Vigilance. We've had Search Party Captain, which costs 1 less for each attacking creature, but draws a card for a 3/4. The stats on this is the wrong way around, because you prefer it to be a 3/4. But we are getting to the point now where we have a mass of this costs 1 less for each creature, or this costs 1 less for each creature that attacked. That this sort of, we surely must have a white weenie deck with a lot of these in. That just, it's sort of like the Mer Enforcer effect. You've just got that many good ones that surely that this is... Like, this draws a card, which is not nothing in an aggro deck, and is very easy to have 5 creatures in play. So, I think this card might possibly create a new white weenie aggro. The fact that you don't have to run Bugler, you don't have to run Skyfish, you can literally just run a bunch of 1-drops, token creators, etc. Search Party Captain, Salt Road Pack Beast, and something Phalanx, Agarthian Phalanx, or whatever it's called. It's a 5 and a white 4/4 for Vigilance. That costs 1 less for each creature you control. And I think this is probably the... I went on a limb. I actually think that Mardu Devotee is probably the best card in the set. But I went on a limb that said this will create a white weenie deck. That probably isn't better than the original one, but is an alternative, more aggressive style. Maybe even red-white. I don't know. But main thing is, I think there's enough of these effects to actually join them together and do well. And that is it. I tried my hardest to not ramble on, but we got it to about 15 minutes. Let's go! Do not forget to like and subscribe, guys. And do not forget to check out Manatraders in the link in the description. Do not forget to check out Cast and Commons. And do not forget give me a follow on Mockfield. I will see you for the next one. Peace!